So our next sociometry tool that we're going to be experiencing together is called a locogram or a floor check. So in classical psychodrama work, we used to use the locogram, which is where we would designate different areas of the room to represent different options. And we would get a democratic vote by the group, a group choice. So for example, it might say over here represents, we're going to take a break in 5 minutes. Over here represents, you'd like to take a break in a half an hour. Over here might represent, you don't need a break and you'd like to just power through the rest of the day. And over here could represent a different choice that hasn't been named yet. This was the traditional locogram, a quick group as a whole vote to see what the group was warmed up for. So Tion Dayton, who created the relational trauma repair model of psychodrama, she took this locogram and made it a bit more dynamic. Instead of just designating different parts of the room to represent the options, she printed them out on paper and offered multiple prompts for the same criteria, the same topics. So one of the most common ones is the feeling floor check. And this is probably the most useful in my experience, especially with client groups. It's a great exercise that really gets everybody connecting with each other. It brings out the mutual aid in a group, where participants are supporting each other, contributing to the healing of each other, educating each other, sharing their experiences with each other. It warms a group up physically, because we're up moving around, warms the group up emotionally, warms them up to whatever topic you've chosen, and it warms them up socially or sociometrically to each other. So it's a really useful tool. One of my favorite things about it is that once you put it into action as a facilitator, you get to step back and just let the group take care of each other, heal each other, educate each other, support each other. So it really brings the group together. So today we're going to be demonstrating this exercise with feelings. So I printed out a couple different feelings on pages here, and I'm going to place them throughout the room. First we have sadness and depression. Then we have happy, joy, and content. Shame and guilt. Fear and anxiety. Anger, frustration, and irritation. And almost every time I do a floor check, I like to have an option for other, in case none of these fit for you. Other could be whatever isn't labeled yet. So I'm going to put other in the center here. So first, I'm going to ask you to physically place yourself at the feeling that most characterizes your day today. Where are you at today? You could go find your place. Where are you at today? Which feeling most characterizes where you're at today? All right. I don't think I've ever had a group where everyone was at the same feeling. But I had a sense that this group might all be at joy. So just for the purposes of sharing, I'm going to break us into two smaller groups about here, just to share about why you put yourself at this feeling.
I am so happy that this work is getting done. Psychodrama is really important to me in the education about psychodrama, so it's a real privilege to be a part of it, and I'm feeling highly spontaneous and really excited.
I guess I found this to be really educational. I'm really enjoying learning, getting to connect to other clinicians who are also really excited about it and being able to feed off one another.
Yeah, definitely. I like what you just said, feeding off of one another, that energy. I do catch myself, I kind of was going towards other, and I'm realizing I'm also just experiencing some overwhelmness around shifting and things that are happening with me, but also and how I want to bring more of this in. So there's some of that, but yeah, it's exciting.
So I placed myself at joy and contentment. I'm really happy to be here with all of you, see some familiar faces and meet some new people, and I love getting to do this work. Also, the Oscars are on tonight, which is a very big day of the year for me, so I'm very excited for that.
I put myself here because I've just had a series of deadlines, and I'm finished with them, and I'm joyful. And I'm happy to be able to be here for a little reward and sunshine.
Yeah, we all volunteered to come, so on a Sunday. So this is something that I like to do, and I know a lot of you guys, and I like you. And the more I know, the more I like. I just had a lot of coffee, so I'm feeling really good and happy and joyous.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty happy, pretty content. I love having opportunities to learn more about this and meet other people who are doing this kind of work. It's a Sunday, it's a day off, it's sunny. I like everybody here, like Hayden said, and I've got a nice evening planned. I'm going to see my family, so I'm just in a place of joy right now.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I am very much with everybody else. I love these trainings. It's good to see some people that I haven't seen in a long time, and also, yeah, I wasn't expecting some of the people who are here to be here, and I was very happy to see them. And this room is really beautiful, and it's just nice to have all this light and be in an open space all day.
So I'd have to agree with everyone in saying that I like everybody here. So that's always a cool thing. I mentioned it earlier too, where my drive, it takes me about an hour and a half. Well, here specifically, actually an hour and 15 minutes to get up here, and the drive's beautiful on a Sunday morning. So the sun was out, and even coming out here, it's kind of like a ritual almost, because I come out here every month, the whole drive, it's just mindful and easygoing. And of course, I always enjoy what we do here as well. So.
Next, we're going to move on to another prompt. I'm going to ask you to go stand at the feeling that you experience your clients express the most to you. Which one of these shows up in your offices, in your groups, and in your work the most? Which one of these do you feel that your clients express the most to you? And I see there's a few people in between criteria. This happens often with this exercise. I often tell my clients that the ability to hold two conflicting feelings at the same time is a sign of emotional maturity. So it's okay to be in between two. For this, I challenge folks to stand at the one that they most experience. So which one do you feel like you most experience from your clients? Once you find your place, you could share briefly about why you're standing at this feeling.
And addiction. Addiction is a shame-based disease which consistently cycles back into a relapse. And so being able to sit with a client who's sitting in a lot of shame and guilt, it's just what like the common base emotion is what I typically see would manifest into other behavioral manifestations as well. So it's something that I think I'll consistently see throughout my professional career.
I work with clients that have experienced trauma, and I define shame as I am bad, guilt as I did bad. And my entire practice is about helping them shift and reframe both. Victims of trauma often carry the perpetrator's shame. And I try to love them through it and help them transform it and move into post-traumatic growth. Yeah.
People that I work with talk a lot about fear and anxiety because most of them are immigrants and some are undocumented. And there's a lot of uncertainty about what can happen in this moment. So I hear a lot of people worry about family members disappearing or not even being able to plan about their future because they don't know if they're going to be here tomorrow. And that really brings a lot of anxiety and fear. Yeah.
For me, I work with women, so, and sometimes there's postpartum or they're pregnant, so the fear and the anxiety of the unknown, am I being a good enough mother? Am I going to be able to do this? The supports I have, and within a group setting, a lot of times people take off or take time away from work, and there's a lot of insecurity and fear and anxiety around, like, will I still have a job? Should I be going back to this job? So a lot of fear of the unknown is definitely a huge piece of the work I do.
Yeah, I work with a lot of people in recovery, and especially in early recovery from alcoholism and addiction, and just learning how to navigate life without drugs and alcohol is ridden with fear and anxiety, because most people are learning how to just go through a simple day and like reconstructing all of their relationships without alcohol and without drugs, and how to do that is super anxiety producing for most people, I think.
So just a few teaching pieces about this exercise. Again, this is called a floor check. There's really an unlimited amount of topics or prompts you could ask with this exercise. Some of the other ones that I use beyond the feeling floor check in my groups include defenses. So which defense have you been using the most since you've been in therapy? Which defense comes up for you when you think about facing your trauma? Which defense did you used to use a lot more that you haven't been using so much anymore? You could do it with strengths. Place the strengths throughout the room. One of my favorite ones is to do the PTSD symptom checklist and have clients connecting on different experiences of how trauma has impacted them. In training groups or the classroom, you might use mental health diagnoses. Which diagnosis do you feel most comfortable working with? Which diagnosis do you feel like you know the most about or the least about? In my classroom, I use the social work core values. Which core value do you feel like you embody the most in your work? Which core value do you feel like your supervisor could use some work with? Yeah, you could really ask any prompt on the floor checks. It's a really useful tool that, again, is a group as a whole assessment. It allows you to see where everybody at the group is, based on whatever prompt you'd like. So you can do this with any topic that has subtopics within it. So the video that you just viewed depicts the floor check. And the floor check, again, is a sociometry tool or a sociometric tool that comes from the relational trauma repair model created by Tion Dayton. The floor check takes the traditional locogram and makes it a little more dynamic, allows us to offer multiple prompts with the same qualifiers as options, and to do a deeper assessment of the group in the here and now, while also promoting additional layers of connection between group members, and to really pull out the mutual aid in the group, which allows participants to help each other and support each other. So the floor check is a useful experiential group process that could be used as a warm-up, as an experiential group in itself, or as a processing or integrative piece at the end of a group. We could use the floor check as a warm-up to really assess the group and get people moving, get them warmed up in their bodies, get them warmed up to a specific topic that we're asking prompts about, and to get them warmed up to each other within the group. Or we could also use the floor check as an integrative process at the end of a psychodrama or at the end of a sociodrama to help participants share in a way that's more time efficient, to connect with other participants that have had a shared experience and to share together about the experience that they had as a way of closing, rather than having everybody share it one at a time, which would take quite a lot of time in a big group. Now, one other thing to keep in mind when facilitating a floor check is what to do if somebody ends up alone. With a floor check, when you're choosing the number of options on the floor, you want to gauge that based on the size of the group that you're going to have. So if you have a group of 100 people, it might be helpful to have closer to 20 options so that people are spread out between different options. If you have a group of 5 or 10 participants, It wouldn't be very useful to have 20 options. Maybe it would be more helpful to have 3 to 5 options. This way it's more likely that participants end up in manageable group sizes when choosing prompts. If a participant does end up alone in a floor check, you could simply have them join into another group for sharing. Usually it helps to allow them to choose whichever group they'd like to share in, and they could share about why they were at the specific choice that they were at. The floor check is also something that you could facilitate online, depending on what type of video technology and platform that you use. Some of them allow for the floor check to be modified easier than others. For example, in a Zoom room, you could use the breakout feature to break people out into smaller groups based on the choice that they made in a floor check prompt. If you found this video helpful in learning about the floor check, you might consider some of the other videos that we created that teach other experiential therapy tools. You can find the links to those videos in the description below.